Hey everybody, today is Throwback Thursday and it is really throwing it back because we're throwing it back. What year did you start here, young man?
Gosh, 2004, I think.
2004. That was a long time ago, and at that time you were about 215 pounds?
Yeah, 221 at my heaviest. So yeah, and you know, television, they always say it puts on an extra 10
Yes,
pounds.
it does.
But when you were here with this crew going out to eat every day for lunch, it also put on an extra bit of pounds.
Yeah. What an amazing time, what an amazing journey. Who made the call to you to bring you to ETC, Hans?
Wow. So, you know, kind of goes back a little bit. I was thinking about moving to Savannah. We were talking about off air earlier. A friend of mine was starting a company doing documentaries. And I had just been on this was before the Next Food Network star. I don't know what started that. It was after my sister passed, actually. And I kind of thought, you know, life is short. I've been doing the restaurant business my whole life. I want to try something else. So a friend of mine had asked me to relocate to Savannah with him to start this documentary company. And we're still really good friends. But during that time, Larry and Rita Johnson, who used to own the Dairy Queen here and also in Jasper, and they're from LJ, kind of got wind of the fact that I wanted to go into this sort of filmmaking, television kind of stuff, and they said, "Well, have you ever talked to anybody at ETC?" And I said, "No, I didn't know too much about what they produced here." And
at that time, they had been like 2 years into production.
Yes, yeah. So they were doing ball games and some, you know, minor local productions and things, but. So they talked to Roger Fudge and said, "Hey, do you know Hans?" And he knew of me through the Woodbridge, and I had been a guest a couple of times on Rhonda Thomas's show. What was it called?
Where Flavors of the South, where I had to follow you, and that was like, oh my God, that's like walking out and you know, you got an Emmy and I got lunch.
No,
you know? I mean, it was horrible because I was so nervous. But you and your daddy did a great job.
Yeah,
with that.
and had a great
so
time
much
with
fun.
that. Getting him to, you know, not curse and to stay on topic was difficult.
And to say, Joe, this is Christian television.
Joe,
this is Christian television.
Keep it somewhat clean. So, but anyway, so he I guess he saw my persona or whatnot, and so he just reached out to me and said, "Hey, I hear you're, you know, thinking about making this move. Would you consider helping us launch this local news show?" So,
and your desk literally sat right here in front of this gosh awful background. I hate this background, y'all. I tell y'all every day. This background and I just don't work. It's too business-like, and we're too casual.
But what year? This was probably done in 2000.
2000,
you know, so it's dated at this point, for sure. It might have been dated at that point.
It's kind of like us. We're both dated a little
What's the word now? Vintage. It's a bit vintage.
Yes.
So anyway, that's what started the conversation, and they hired me on, and I worked here for probably 3 months doing other productions, getting to know how to use the cameras and learn how to edit and all those things prior to.
Because basically you had a vision, but you had not pursued that vision.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, this was a, hey, this is something that I would be interested in doing. So that gave me the perfect platform to do it, and we started out doing an 8-minute show that looped 3 times in a half hour.
So funny.
But we had to get that content and come back and edit it, and so it was really just me and at that time Phil Harrington would follow me, or the two of us would go.
Right.
So it was a good way to start it, and then slowly we doubled the length, and then we went to a half-hour show and added Christy Lindstrom doing weather, and we had it became its own thing.
And it is so funny because when I started 2 years later, I came in as a 1-hour show, and then all of a sudden they said, "Could you extend your program?"
Right.
And I said, "Okay, how much?" And they said, "An hour and a half." And I said, "Okay." So we extended an hour and a half, and then they came in about a week later and said, "Could you extend to 2 hours?" And I said, "Okay." And so I looked at Bill Senyard and I said, "Listen, I know I'm just paying you for an hour, but we're going to do 2 hours, you know." And so we started doing 2 hours, and the 2 hours just went by just like 30 minutes.
You and I have no problem
crazy.
talking and filling time.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh my gosh." So Tuesday, when Dave Garner was here, we were talking about on my 400th program. I didn't know it was my 400th program.
Oh, wow.
Roger and whoever had a cake delivered to the studio, and we had cake, and we celebrated 400 programs. And last night, as I was going through programs, I realized I've done thousands of programs.
Sure.
I've interviewed thousands of people. And I just thought, where has the time gone? Because I remember the 30-minute Flavors of the South. You and your daddy did 2 shows.
Yep.
Then I came up behind you and I did peach cobbler and blackberry cobbler. And I was an absolute wreck. I had on a black outfit with butterflies on it. We'll never forget it to this moment because Rhonda was not much of a cook.
Oh no, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that wasn't her thing.
But it was also part of her charm because
Yes.
I will watch.
She listened.
Well, I will watch a professional chef do a program where they have to ask their guests, "Well, why are you doing this?" And you know it's not genuine because that person knows the answer to that. They're
Yes.
just asking for the audience. But with Rhonda, it
She
was
didn't
very.
know.
She didn't know, and
Yeah.
so when she asked you, it wasn't her pretending to not know.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't know. And neither did 90% of the people watching. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a very genuine, honest, and she would laugh and say, "Oh, I was such an airhead." But she really did a good job of
Yes.
asking the questions that most of the viewers had, but maybe wouldn't ask in that situation. So I thought it was charming on that level.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I can remember, was that her home that it was filmed
Yeah,
in?
it was in Blue Ridge.
Yeah, a cabin.
Yeah, yeah, and it was a nice kitchen. I mean, when I see footage of it now, in my professional eye, it's a bit orange, as
Yeah.
far as the lighting, and
Yeah.
I see things that we can improve. But you know what? Hindsight is always
Oh, yeah.
2020.
Oh,
So
yeah.
for what it was, it captured that time,
Yeah.
and again, that sort of earnest, honest, genuine experience of,
Well,
you know.
do you know about the first part of the home done at Harris Farm when Lori Tipton forgot to bring the lighting?
No,
and
you-
so we go to Home Depot and get lights.
Right.
Those are not the right lights.
Sure, yeah.
And so you could tell everybody was red. We were all red, and we looked like we'd been out on a binge
Whoa.
drinking.
Sorry.
But it was crazy because we were new at it. Lori was new at it. She had been working at WSB, and then she came here, and she just came to me and said, "Would you like to do a cooking segment?" And I said, "I don't have time for that." And my secretary said, "Yeah, you do. Make time. That'll be fun." And I said, "I don't have time for that." And I said it like 10 times, and she waited 2 days, came back, and I said, "Well, maybe I could do that."
Sure.
And the rest is history. But when you start doing this, you do realize I learned from Doreen Lee, who worked for Willie Cisnero,
Right.
the owner way before your daddy. And Doreen was a full-blown Yankee cook, but my gosh, was she an amazing cook. And she taught me so many things. And then she learned from me because she couldn't make biscuits. So she learned from me. And that's one of the things when you step into a kitchen, I don't care who you're with, everybody has something to bring.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's your grandmother's recipe, which is to me the most amazing pound cake in the world.
It is
your
good.
grandmother's pound cake is like the top of the line. Or if it's your daddy's, just that simple flounder, which forever until the day the Woodbridge Inn closed, to me was the best thing they ever served.
Yeah, it's good.
It's
a great fish.
fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And the other simple things that to me are simple now because I've seen you and your dad make them a million times. I used to think Bananas Foster was just like over the top hard. It is so simple.
Oh, I can do it in my sleep.
It
Yeah.
is so simple.
Yeah.
But it's so elegant and it's so wonderful.
We've done it right here on this
Yes.
in this set.
Yes, yes. And I said that's what really makes cooking amazing because you see something and it looks so, oh my gosh, can I do that? And then you try it and it is so yummy, so simple.
But it's any task. I mean, when you first learn to crochet, which I cannot do, I'm just saying that, to me that looks like pure magic to see how
yeah.
somebody
Oh,
takes
yeah.
2 sticks and a ball
Yeah.
of thing and they turn it into whatever.
Yeah.
But when you slow down and you figure out, okay, this is what's happening, and it's the same with food. I mean, from a distance, it's like, oh my God. But part of the reason when I go and speak to some, to a hospital or a wellness group or anywhere, in fact, I'm going to be in Ball Ground Monday night. There's a new little shop there opening. You connected me
yes,
with Nancy.
yes.
So I'm doing a little.
Laura Mays,
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
My grandmother's name was Laura, so I'm
Yeah,
excited
yeah.
about that.
It's a great
gonna be
space,
so
and
cool.
and
Yeah.
we can talk about Ball Ground later. But
Yeah.
I never wear a chef's coat to those things because I feel like that almost creates this barrier or an excuse for somebody to go, well, he's a chef, I can't do that.
Yes,
So I show
yes.
up in my Birkenstocks and in a polo or whatever, so that they can see this is this guy putting these things together. And I've tried to demystify that to a degree because yes, I've had a lifetime of experience in the kitchen, but I still, most of the stuff I do, I would say are 7 ingredients or less, and usually it's, kind of this last minute assemblage. I love food that is still in its original format. So, of course you can go all sorts of crazy fancy, but the meals that I love the most are these 2 or 3 items just thrown together that are singular, delicious flavors, and that's what I try to focus on.
Well, out of all the meals you've ever prepared that I loved, my favorite ever was one that you prepared recently and we enjoyed at the Mule House. And it was lobster and corn and kale and onions and a little bit of mayonnaise.
Yep.
And just the simplest ingredients and fresh and crisp and oh my gosh.
It's so easy.
It was so good.
It's just like with painting, too many colors turns into mud, right? And so you want to have there's a handful of colors so you can still distinguish them. And it's the same with food. I think that's a rookie mistake sometimes is people get so many spices or so many ingredients, and they try to put them all in at the same time, and your brain can't handle that many things, So a handful of things together just is a great.
Do you like allspice?
I do, but allspice is not a mix of spices, and I think that's allspice
What is it?
It is a seed. Sometimes it's called the Jamaican pimento. And actually, it's funny you brought that up. So my dad and I were taking a tour at Disney World, and we were doing this behind the scenes of their little gardening thing. And so the question was, can you name all of the spices in allspice? And everybody was guessing, it's cinnamon, it's bay leaf, it's whatever. And I knew the answer that it's not a mix of spices. It is one spice, and it's the same thing that mace comes from. Not the mace you spray in somebody's eyes, but there's another dish called mace, or a spice called mace, and that's the coating of this berry, which is allspice. And I do love it. And
I love allspice.
Yeah, it's used a lot in Caribbean, because that's where it's from, in Caribbean cooking, and it has that sort of sweet flavor without actually being sweet. So it's not like sugar sweet. But again, like cinnamon is not technically sweet, but you associate it with sweet things. But no, I love it. I think it's a great spice.
I did a program up in Alaska, and the gentleman who was my guest, he was the weatherman for I think it was KTUU out of Anchorage, and he brought me 5th generation Swedish meatball recipe. And he's making it, and he gets out the allspice, and it just was heavenly.
Smells, yeah, amazing.
It was heavenly. And so from then on, I was an allspice fan, and I wasn't much of a fan because I didn't know anything about it. And once Scott used that, then it introduced me to something.
Well, going back to the color analogy, I always tell people that if you're a picky eater, you are sort of handcuffing yourself. You are limiting your crayon. So my analogy is always if you go to a fast food restaurant and they give your child the coloring mats, like the placemat with the coloring thing on there, and they give them 3 crayons. Well, there's only so much you can do with those 3 crayons. And so if you think of your spices or flavors like crayons, you want to get to where you have the big box of 128. And so allspice is putting another crayon in that box that you then, when you are painting that dish, you have another thing, not just red, green, and yellow. You have, red, blue, and yellow, whatever they give you with the kids pack. So allspice is one of those that you want to have it in that. It might not be appropriate for every painting, but you want to have that color in your toolbox.
Right. Well, there's so many hypes about cancer, about healthy eating, about dementia, about Alzheimer's. We're trying to find the basis. Where did Alzheimer's start? Where did dementia start? And sadly, last night, Ella J lost a beautiful, beautiful lady, Miss Margie Mull, went to be with the Lord, and she met Charlie. I guarantee you, Charlie was at the gates of heaven saying, Margie, come on in. She battled dementia. As you study food and as you teach food, do you tell people what foods to eat to possibly help for cancer or brain?
I do, but I always kind of preface it with that there is no magic bullet. I think sometimes we have this idea of trying to reduce or extract one food or one vitamin or one enzyme that is going to be the thing, right? But usually it's this marriage of, and it's foods in combination. And when you think of, you've always heard that beta carotene is great for eyesight. Eat carrots for beta carotene. So then people started selling beta carotene sort of supplements. But beta carotene on its own can actually be toxic in high levels. So it is only in the combination of alpha carotene, theta carotene, and you get all of that from a carrot. And not to sound like my dad, but sometimes you just got to eat the damn carrot.
And the carrot bisque. Oh my gosh, I wish I could have come the other day. I wanted that carrot bisque.
I tell you
so
every time I make it, I send you a text to let you know.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, this reductionist theory of nutrition that you can somehow pull out the one thing that is the trigger But really, it's more eating these whole foods and grains, especially dark-colored things that are high in antioxidants, things that are as close to their natural state as possible. I just saw a thing the other day talking about how a potato on its own has only about, like, say, 40 calories, but a potato chip has like 400 calories.
Wow.
Because it's been so far removed. I mean, yes, it's a sliced fried potato, but by the time you open that bag, it's gone through so many steps that it might be a potato product, but it's not the same health properties as a potato. So getting back to as close as the original food or fruit or vegetable as you possibly can is always going to be the healthiest. And so it's a lifestyle thing, right? It's not looking for that magic vitamin. It's looking for how do I incorporate all of these things into a maintainable, and also something that's still enjoyable, because I think sometimes when people think of a diet, whether it's for health or whether it's for weight loss, it becomes villainized as like, oh, I'm on a diet. But rather, if you think of it as just you're just moving those goalposts in a little bit, like these are the kind of foods I'm going to play with because these are the ones that are best for whatever health condition you're dealing with.
Well, I'm on this, I hate to say these words, I'm on a health kick. I'm trying to just lots of vegetables, protein. I'm just trying to do better, I want my sugar to be good. I want everything to be good. I want to live to be 89 and be healthy.
Why stop there?
You know, that's what I said.
I want to come to your 100th birthday party.
That's what I kind of said, but 89 is like my family number. All the ladies after 89 ended up with dementia. So it scares me a little bit.
You can be the one that bucks that.
That I can beat it.
Yeah.
That I can beat it. But now I want to share some photos with y'all because today is Kathy Chastain's birthday. So happy birthday to Kathy Chastain. It is my brother-in-law, Charles Paget's birthday. He is 80. He does not look it. The man still works 3 to 5 days a week. He is amazing. There's Kathy and her beautiful family. We love being able to share your stories. And one of the sad stories of today truly was sad for the community, but a blessing that Margie Mull is no longer battling, trying to live through dementia. So Margie is gone. There's Miss Margie. That was only 7 months ago. And sadly, she went downhill very quickly. Dementia was a terrible, terrible thing, and it is what it is. Also, last night, a young man in Holly Springs lost his life. He was a police officer, a young man. There you see he and his wife, and he was doing his job. He was just doing his job, and he was shot and killed. And it's heartbreaking. So today, pray for all those back the blue. Please remember to support our police officers, and please say a prayer for the city of Holly Springs because they lost a wonderful young man just doing his job last night. So, you know, when I look at what's going on around us, we are so blessed to still have these mountains to enjoy. I saw that you'd been ramp hunting.
Oh, yeah.
You still do things like that. We still get out. I used to go and visit people's gardens, and one of the things that I would do, I would just pull up in a garden and say, do you mind if I take some pictures? And here's this little man sitting on a bucket picking green beans. He said, no, that's okay. And I know they thought, who is this weird lady out here doing this? But to see that food start from a seed, produced, and then go to your table. You talk about farm to table. Now that's about as good as it gets. And these communities still, if you ride around today, you'll see all these beautiful gardens. We're still known for gardening.
I think it is, you know, you mentioned dementia. I think the more you can stay active with those kind of things, and there was a study that I read recently talking about caring for something else. It doesn't have to be a human, it can be a pet, or it can be a plant. But just that nurturing, it kind of keeps the brain fresh. It keeps you active because you're responsible for this. And so I think gardening, just as a human activity, taps into that, you know, our innate sense that we want to nurture and care for something. And to watch, like you said, watch a seed turn into a seedling, turn into a plant, turn into something that's bearing tomatoes or peppers or just a flower, you know, it just makes you smile. So I'm out there every day. Now, I have developed a pretty strong hatred for groundhogs because I had...
You have no idea. We probably have 50.
I trapped and relocated 26 of them last summer.
Oh my gosh.
This summer I've caught 4 already, and I used the humane traps, and I take them to a park and let them go. But I had some beautiful
You're not bringing them to ball ground, are you? Because we
yes.
sure are getting
No. The location of which will remain undisclosed. But I had one night I went to bed and I had these 6 gorgeous red romaine heads that I thought tomorrow morning I'm going to harvest those, and then the next morning I had 3 of them.
Oh,
And they ate them down to
no.
the nub.
Oh, no.
So, I try to plant excess knowing that I'm going to lose, 10% or whatever. When you
And
lose
as
half
you
of
see,
it,
the groundhogs get fatter.
oh yeah, and the babies are so cute.
Oh, yeah.
And I have a feeling if my dad were still around, he'd be making sausage with them if it came
Oh,
down to it. Yeah,
gosh.
but
Yeah, you would.
but anyway, no. So, but I think gardening is something that we, especially during the pandemic, a lot of people started gardening
Sure,
that had never
yeah,
tried it before.
yeah.
Even if it's a
Your
patio-
home, number one, it's a teaching tool for your children.
yep.
So you're teaching your children that you can till this land, put this seed in there, fertilize it a little bit, water it a little bit, and wow, there you go.
Well, I tried a new technique this winter, and a couple of my friends that are helping at the old mule house, and of course my kids, what we did was we layered the soil. It's called lasagna style gardening, where you use, I wish you could grow lasagna, I'd have a lot of lasagna plants.
Yeah.
But you're layering cardboard, and so rather than having to till the soil, you're laying out cardboard and you're letting it slowly decompose, and then you put soil on top of that cardboard. And it's working really well. I've got okra and tomatoes and peppers, and I didn't have to go and break my back trying to turn over the soil. So we'll see. It's just a new, but
Pretty
it
awesome.
refreshed my enthusiasm for getting out there, and especially during the winter months when you can't garden, I was laying the foundation for a great garden this
Yeah,
year.
yeah. Do you love, I like yellow crookneck squash.
Oh, yeah,
Just sauteed with a little bit of, what did you used to put on it? Not oregano?
We put a little bit of thyme. That's what we had on
man,
there.
it was
Thyme.
so good.
Yeah, we would just put olive oil, a little garlic and salt, and then fresh thyme, or even dried thyme works okay. And then we'd layer that cut squash on a sheet pan and throw it in the oven. Of course, in the South, a lot of people like it where it's fall apart, and I like that too. But I really like it where you can eat it with a knife and fork. It becomes like a great, few rings, or even on the grill. It's fantastic. Love squash.
Well, in the last few weeks, we've been uploading Heart of the Homes, and we happened to do a program where you and Annie were in the same kitchen
Yeah.
at Charlene's kitchen, and Annie was teaching us to make biscuits.
remember
Well,
that.
she called me a couple of days later, and I said, nobody makes biscuits like Annie. She has this technique that is just amazing, and she uses every single piece of flour, every single tiny crumble of the Crisco, and her biscuits are always the same. Fantastic. And so when I look back at the people like Doreen Lee and Lucy Van Doren, who taught me so much about presentation. Presentation is one of your specialties because you want it to go out the kitchen at the restaurant and really go, people go, wow.
Yeah, I want them to have that wow moment.
Gotta have that wow factor.
Even more so, and I've been doing that for 20 years, but even more so now with everybody's on Instagram and Facebook and whatever, and they're posting a picture for better or for worse,
Yes,
right? And so
yes.
you want that thing to be like, wow.
Yes,
Like
yeah.
even the placement, where the steak is here, the potatoes here, I want to make sure that it's sat the right way in
Yeah.
front of them.
Yeah.
So I have been accused of being a bit neurotic about that.
Yes.
But you have one chance
I
to make
love
that.
it.
Yeah, you make
Yeah,
that first
yeah,
impression.
yeah.
And I grow tons of herbs, and so to have that, that sprig of mint or whatever it is in the right place on there, it is essentially a weed. But it's almost like that is you've signed off that this dish is done.
That's it.
So
yeah, it's awesome.
I've been helping at the old mule house and am enjoying my time there, and because I'm training a lot of younger people, and I know there are days they're like, God, like I'll see
He
them,
is
I'm like,
such a
whoa,
jerk.
bring that plate back. I mean, I come by it honestly, right?
Yes, you do.
But why should they not have that little extra touch? It might take literally 5 seconds more,
Yeah,
but it creates
yeah.
that wow moment.
Absolutely.
And again, it gives them pause where they see that and they're taking pictures, and then when they see that herb, that chive blossom came from right over there, I think that connects the whole thing.
That is pretty flippin' awesome. Well, in all the years from 4 years old when you would come downstairs and stand and watch your daddy produce magic in a kitchen, we have to say that was probably the worst kitchen in history.
Oh, yeah.
It was hot, it was crowded, it was absolutely not conformed to anything that made any sense.
Yeah, well, it was an old building.
And
It was
how
retrofitted.
many
Yeah.
millions of meals were produced there?
Yeah, it's amazing how much food went out of there. And when I tell people that I started at age 4, they kind of snicker, but I really did
Oh,
start
you
at age
did.
4.
Trust me, I was there.
Yeah, I stood on a
Yes.
milk crate,
Yes.
washing dishes.
Yes.
And I also would bread the trout, the rainbow trout, which at that time we got from Price Creek
Right,
Trout Farm.
right.
And then, but our trout that we're doing at the Mule House, I'm doing the same recipe. It comes from Suchess here, so it's a local trout. It's called Bramlett Farms. And I mean, to me, I think, it's odd to be in Jasper, Georgia and try to say, oh, we've got New Zealand mussels. Well, that's not fresh.
Yeah,
That had to
yeah.
come from halfway around
Yeah,
the world. But
yeah.
to have trout that, you could throw a rock to, I mean,
Yeah,
to me,
yeah.
I think a restaurant should be, somewhat a reflection of the place, I mean, obviously you're going to
Absolutely.
have ethnic restaurants and different things, but I mean, I'm proud of the fact when we can have something local on the plate.
And the lemon pie. The lemon pie you added that little bit of raspberry sauce.
Yeah, that Melba sauce, yeah.
Yeah, and it was so yummy, and it just made this tiny little bit of difference, but what a difference it made. Because you can slice a piece of it, put it on a saucer, it's just a piece of pie, and then you dressed it up.
And then throw a mint leaf on top of that, just for good measure. And so we brought that to the Mule House, and Judge Weaver, she comes in and buys a whole pie. Now,
Yes.
she doesn't eat the whole pie right
No,
then.
that
but,
was my birthday every year.
Yep.
My employees would go buy me a whole lemon
But
pie.
she'll come in and buy
Yeah.
a whole pie to take with her and have a piece while she's there as well. But it is kind of fun that, as sort of one door closed with the Woodbridge, and now I started slowly bringing a few of those things just because people were so desperate to have the chicken parmesan, the pecan trout, and the lemon pie, and the French onion soup.
Right.
So a handful, and the cheese spread that we've made for years. So
Yep.
all of those things are still alive and kicking at the
Yeah.
Mule House. So.
And I think that is, number one, it's given you don't have the headache that you had at the Woodbridge Inn.
Yeah.
Yes, because if you are the owner and a dishwasher doesn't show up, then
it's-
you are the
yeah.
dishwasher. If you are the owner and the electricity shorts out and your cooler goes down, then you've just lost $60,000 in meat.
Right,
So, you don't have that pressure anymore, and you're enjoying getting out there among the people.
I love people and I love food, and that's honestly, when I purchased the Woodbridge Inn in 2009, I don't think I fully understood in hindsight how much time is spent on the things that distract
you
you
don't
from.
like.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean
yeah.
the taxes, the payroll, the human resource things, the hiring, the firing. It takes you away from that hospitality of feeding people and making them. It's not just about this transaction of give me your money, I'll give you food, goodbye. It's this ephemeral. That's the experience that I love so much. And so yeah, by not owning the place, I'm getting to enjoy a little
Yeah.
more of that. I mean, I still have
You left
headaches,
the
but-
headache behind, sort of.
Yeah.
And you get many headaches now.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
And I love the idea that you have been able to train some younger people.
I think my dad did that, and it's.
Well,
it
we
is-
saw one of them, Mark Walker,
Oh,
was
yeah.
in ball
Yep,
grounds.
that's
yeah.
right.
And I can remember your daddy teaching him to make hollandaise sauce. And to me, I could stand over that hollandaise bowl and just look at it, and I swear I believe I could have drank the whole thing. I mean, just, oh my gosh, it
But
was
that's
so good.
hollandaise is a great example because it's not the packet stuff that you buy, right? This is eggs and butter and vinegar and thyme, and it is this
Lemon.
temporary, a little lemon juice. It's a temporary emulsion. And my dad would always say that hollandaise was a female. Sorry about that, because it was very fickle.
It was fixing to fall apart.
And it had to be in the right temperature. And if it got too hot, it would break apart. And if it got too cold, it would seize up. And
Yeah.
he's like, so you got to treat it like it's your wife,
Yeah,
So.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, we're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to share a little bit of footage of some things that have happened here in the past. And I don't know what calls got loaded up, but I guarantee you're going to get to see something. So hang around. We will be back in just a minute.
It's that time again for Fire in the Sky. Fireworks over Lake Blue Ridge this July 4th. All thanks to our sponsors, Blue Water Energy, the Fannin County Chamber of Commerce, and Caldwell Banker High Country Realty. So come join the live excitement of Fire in the Sky. Fireworks over Lake Blue Ridge on July 4th. Or watch it live on ETC Channel 3.
Whether it's memories of your first trip to the local Dairy Queen or your daily visit for a $5 lunch special, the Jasper Dairy Queen has been a part of the community for over 40 years. Locally owned and operated, Jasper DQ is the place where specialty items often become favorites. Burgers, shakes, chicken tenders with yummy dip and gravy, and don't forget the rings and fries. Celebration cakes are always fresh and fast and include the awesome Blizzard cake. Stop by where folks are always meeting and eating. 515 at Highway 53. Just follow the crowd to the Dairy Queen.
ATC knows The internet is evolving, taking new twists and turns. As we add our input, make our choices, and follow the light that connects us all. It's quite a journey, one to experience with the fastest speeds available. Contact ETC. Connect to the internet speed that suits your journey and enjoy the ride.
Whether you're swimming in the sea or splashing in the pool, making a masterpiece, or just making memories, writing a great American novel, or writing your term paper that's due tomorrow. Whatever you do in life, Farmers is here to protect it. For all your insurance needs, call Donald Curtis in Blue Ridge.
Georgia Medical Treatment Center now has 2 locations to bring you the high-quality, holistic care you've come to know and expect. We treat neck, back, and joint pain with chiropractic care and injection-based treatment without the need for surgery or prescription painkillers. Our medical weight loss program can also provide relief while ridding your body of toxins, pounds, and inches while improving your overall health. Call today for a free consultation, 770-345-2000, or go online to georgiamtc.com.
Instead of a birthday card, maybe something a little more special, and you're
Yeah.
fixing to get to see it. And this is from Miss Loretta Brackett.
That's right. And we have a photo of Miss Loretta and Eddie that they're going to show. You know, I don't know how old she is. Maybe something. But that is in front of the well at Loretta Lynn's old house in Butcher Holler in Kentucky.
Oh.
So how about that? Happy birthday, Miss Loretta.
birthday.
Now we're gonna play something for you. Brett, I hope we've got this queued up, ready to go. It is number 4, and this is a birthday greeting from who?
Freddie Brackett.
From her son. That's right. That's right.
West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah River. Life is old there, older than the trees, younger than the mountains, growing like a breeze. Country roads take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home. Country roads, all my memories gather round her. Miner's lady, stranger to blue water, dark and dusty, painted on the sky, misty taste of moonshine, teardrop in my eye. Country roads take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home. Country roads, I hear her voice in the morning hour. She calls me. The radio reminds me of my home far away. And driving down the road, I get a feeling that I should have been home yesterday. Country roads take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home. Country roads, take me home to the place I belong.
Happy birthday, Miss Loretta.
I think that
Happy
is
birthday.
So sweet.
Don't get no better than that.
No, now that, you talk about a personal birthday greeting, that's pretty personal. Now, if you would like to do something like that for your mom, do it and call us and let's get it on MeTV, because that is, you know, what could you give your mom? Your mom's like me. I don't need anything. I don't want anything. After
I, as a chef, think is a little silly to do on a cooking show, but you'd be amazed how many people just don't know how to poach a shrimp. And these are wonderfully succulent, tender shrimp unless you overcook them. So what we want to do is just cook them until they're just turning pink. We never want to bring this water to a boil. So I have just a little bit of water here that I have on a low simmer. And I'll take as many shrimp as I need, and we'll use just a nice big handful for this dish. And you can flavor or perfume this cooking liquid any way you like to. You can put in lemons or limes. I like to stay a little bit on the tame side. I don't want to really overpower the wonderful natural taste of these shrimp. So a couple of bay leaves in the poaching liquid here, a few whole peppercorns, and we'll just put, I just stole these out of my grinder, just a couple peppercorns, and then a little bit of fennel seed. And I like the fennel seed because it has a little bit of a sweet taste to it, and again, the shrimp have an inherent sweetness to them, so we'll put that in there. And I'm going to keep this on just a low simmer until the shrimp turn totally opaque and are pink all the way through, and then I'll shock them in a little bit of ice. And so you can see here I've got some that I've already done that with. They turn a vibrant pink even though they're a white shrimp. And that's from the iodine content that's in the shrimp. But these shrimp actually have a lot less iodine in them than a typical Gulf shrimp do. And a lot of people that have shrimp allergies can get away with eating these Georgia white shrimp just because of that natural low iodine content. So the shrimp parfait that I want to put together is going to have a couple different layers in there, hence the parfait. And we're going to do layers of almost like a traditional shrimp cocktail, in that it's going to have a tomato-based sauce, and we're going to layer that with a tomatillo sauce. We're going to have a nice red and green combination. So we'll take our poached shrimp here and just rough chop these into bite-sized pieces. And typically on something like this, you can use those small, what they call 300 count shrimp, the little tiny shrimp. But I like to have these Georgia shrimp when they're in season, again, because they're fantastically sweet, and it's a resource that we're lucky to have here in this state. So we'll take these, and again, you know, each shrimp can go into about 3 pieces. And again, I don't want to sit here and meticulously cut them into uniform pieces because they're going to all end up in the same place at some point anyway, and your stomach's not going to care what size they are as long as you chew them well. So just kind of rough chop these guys up, and that'll end up into our layers of shrimp. So this is somewhat of a South American inspired, a little bit of a Mexican inspired dish. And so for the red portion, or the red layers of the parfait, I'm going to use some organic ketchup. And ketchup sort of has a stigma. People sometimes think of it as being a sort of the hot dog condiment, which of course it can be. But ketchup is actually a great cooking ingredient to have as well, because you have the tomato that's already been processed for you. And nice organic ketchup has got a good consistency to it. It's got a little sweet from some sugar that's in there. It's got a little vinegar. So, of course, you can make your own, but I mean, who's going to make their own ketchup every time you want to make a nice shrimp cocktail? And I'm going to take and add some wonderful Vidalia onions to this for a little bit of crunch. And, of course, the Vidalia onions are nice and sweet. And anytime that I have the opportunity to use one, I will absolutely use one because they're just fantastic. And I want to thin this down just a tiny little bit with just a splash of water. And just to get it to almost like a little bit of a soup consistency, just a little thinner than your typical ketchup. So not much to this at all. Ketchup, water, onions, and I'm going to take about half of those shrimp and layer these in here. And you can spice this up if you'd like. You can kind of jazz this up a little bit of your favorite hot sauce, a little Tabasco if you'd like, or I'm a huge fan of some Vietnamese hot sauce that's called Cherie Show. Or if you make your own hot sauce, even better. I'm sure that yours is better than anything you can buy in the store. So if you've got some hot sauce set aside, you can put a little dash of that in there as well. So this is the point where I would turn the heat off of the shrimp. They never ever came to a boil, so the water just stayed at a nice even simmer. I can smell the bay leaf and the fennel seed and the peppercorn in there, and of course that wonderful shrimp flavor as well. And this is the point where I would take it off and ice it down, and we'll set this in the fridge until we're ready to use it. Now let's work on putting together the green layer of our parfait, and that's going to be made using a lot of green things here. But the main substance of this sauce is tomatillos, and if you're not familiar with them, sometimes they're called the husk tomato because they have these papery husk on the outside, and they're not related to tomatoes at all. Actually, they are more in the gooseberry family, and you'll find them again in Latin American cuisine quite a bit. And they have a very lemon, citrusy sort of flavor to them, which I think is fantastic. And what I have done is taken some of these husk tomatoes and simply grilled them, got some nice grill marks on them, and mainly just wanted to get them soft. Once you grill them, they get a little squishy, and that's what I wanted to be for my puree here. So we're going to put in our tomatillos, and for what we got here, I probably only need 4 or 5 of those. And I will throw in 1 clove of garlic. And we'll have a little heat here, too, and the heat is going to be from a grilled jalapeno pepper. And the grilling takes a little bit of the heat out of it. And if you want to take all of the heat out, or most of the heat out, you can take the seeds and this white portion, which they call the ribs. You can take out the ribs of the jalapeno.
Okay, now, Cole, can we next show a little bit of the heart of the home that we did up in Blue Ridge? And it is, it says, I can't remember what it says on the disc, but when we took the 4-minute segment here, and it came to a 30-minute program, Fred Wyndham used to say, how do you know when it's 30 seconds? And I said, I don't know. I think in 30-second increments. Yes, I think in 30 seconds. I don't know why I do that, but I would do a promo, I would do an intro, I would do whatever, and he would say, that was 29.3, you're perfect, you're dead on. Do you know when it's time to 7 minutes, because we would do 7 minutes in a commercial, 8 minutes in a commercial.
I think an 8-minute way. So when I do a lot of, I still do things for Piedmont Hospital, and they'll ask me to do a 5-minute, video, and I almost always land at 8 minutes, because to me that's sort of that's a natural. There's just enough introduction. There's just enough outro, and there's just enough meat in the middle. And if I go too fast, I feel rushed, and I feel like I'm not getting the full content. And I do like to talk, and I also am a encyclopedia of random food knowledge, and so I get excited. I mean, it's not just me reading a card and say, today we're doing this. It's me in that moment excited about what I'm making, and if I now have to rush that to 5 minutes, I feel like I'm cheating someone out of something. I wanted to give that extra bit. So most of the places that I work with now understand that I'm not going to give them a recipe. That's not going to happen, and it's going to be longer than 5 minutes. Now we can edit if there's a hard stop, but for the most part, we try to bump it to about that 7 or 8 minute mark.
Yeah. That seems to get what you need to do done. Do you know about the storytelling that they're doing here in Gilmer County? Lucy Harris was on last week, and we were talking about this, and they do 7 or 8 minute storytelling. Okay. And so since I talked to her, in my mind, I've got like 40 stories I want to share now. If you had to choose a story from your life, what story would you want to share with the whole world?
Yeah, you throw me on the spot here, because I also would have about 50 of them. It probably would be me in the first time in the kitchen, because when my dad was on dialysis, and it looked like he was going to pass, and this was in around 1990, 91. This was his first, big illness.
Right.
And I started thinking, wow, I've spent my whole life in this restaurant, and I'd never even scrambled an egg, not once. I mean, I didn't have to. And so I thought, I want to learn how to cook. Not as a profession, but as a life skill. I thought I might be losing possibly the greatest resource I've ever had, and I need to learn how to cook from him. So he would sit on his little stool and in the kitchen with his dialysis, and I became his apprentice. And after about a week, he told my mother, there's no chance this kid is ever going to get this. Like, he said, he's like all left feet. He is an absolute disaster, and somehow you need to communicate to him that it's okay if he doesn't want to do this. So of course, my mom came to me and told me that, saying, he said, whatever, which just quadrupled my resolve. I'm like, I'll show him.
Yeah.
And so I took that as sort of my own personal, like, all right, come to find out later that he knew that was going to be my reaction. And so he kind of, was doing this back channeling to let her know that I could, bow out. But that's the way he worked. And he was so motivational, but sometimes for what I would say are not the right reasons, you know what I mean? Like, and he would flat out, he expected 105% from everybody the entire time, from the minute you signed in.
Because he gave 105%.
Well, he did, and
yeah.
also because oftentimes nobody else expected that much out of
Yes,
somebody. And he
yes.
would tell people, look, I'm going to expect more from you than probably your own parents.
Mm-hmm,
And so many people have come back saying, I am who I am today because of the pressure.
Absolutely.
I hated him at the time,
Oh, yeah.
but
Oh,
he
yeah.
held me
Yeah.
to a higher level. And so that's what I try to do in the kitchen now when I have these young folks coming in there is I'm holding, that plate is going to go out or it's not going to go out at all. It's going to go out my way or the right way, not necessarily my way, but or it's not going to go out at all. And they might hate me in the moment, but it teaches them that quality is not an accident.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, right now we're going to go to a Heart of the Home that we did up in Blue Ridge, and this was just at the foot of the hills near Town and Country. It was the Blackberry Ridge Eatery then. Sadly, during the economic downturn when everybody lost their jobs, this place closed. I loved to show up there and have meatloaf and double order of collard greens and coleslaw. That was my go-to meal. I absolutely loved it. So we did a program there. It was actually one of our last Heart of the Homes, and it was absolutely so much fun and so fantastic. We were bringing in musicians from Nashville, and we were just having a really, really good time. And then all of a sudden, the economy started to fail. And it failed drastically. So we all lived through that. We are now out of it and don't know where we're going next, but this is one of those memories. I'm so thankful for that memory. And if it weren't for Lori Tipton, many, many years before, coming to say, would you like to do a little segment? And I said, I don't have time. Well, the rest
made
is
the time.
history. The rest is history. Here we go. Be there, you didn't feel like you could leave. It's important to spend the extra time with them.
Yeah.
But then sometimes you get to feel a little bit down. I know I did. When after 11 months and 3 weeks of taking care of my late husband and my mother, I got really depressed. And I needed something to cheer me up. Now, Pam, you've come up with a great idea for cheering up somebody.
Well, I'd like to take full credit for it, but I can't. One day I was a little bit down, feeling a little bit blue, and Mary Hopkins brought a little gift in to me, and we'll show you that later on in this segment about a little box of cheer, she called it, and it really worked and it raised my spirits. So when you and I were discussing Heart of the Home, what better person to observe today and honor is the caregiver, because they get forgotten, just like you said.
That's true.
You want to talk about what we're doing for them today?
We do. One thing we want to talk about is sometimes I get really not tired, but down just a little bit. And when I get quiet, you always say, what's wrong? If I get quiet, you think something's wrong. Sometimes I get thoughtful and I think about things, and I do get a little bit down. I have found the best way to stay positive and stay focused is to think about somebody else. To think about somebody else and something small you can do for that. Your mom is a great person to bake cookies for somebody. Do a little something for somebody. Now, your Aunt Betty is facing cancer right now. And her husband has been instrumental in getting her through this, hadn't he?
Yes, he has.
He's a great, great guy, and together they're going to conquer this. But everybody needs a little positive somebody coming into your life. And today we're going to show little things you can do for that caregiver. Just a little something. It doesn't have to be a big deal. Tell me about the pear preserves you got on North Georgia Now today.
I know. I've been really sick with a bug
for a week,
and I actually lost 10 pounds in a week and a half, so I know I was very sick. But these pear preserves have been on my mind for a while, and sometimes you get to thinking about a food and you want it because of the texture, the flavor, and I love the grittiness of the pear and the sweet. And I got surprised with Freddie's mama made pear preserves and sent them. And that was my little treat, that I got to eat, and actually kept it down and was very happy because that's a homemade gift.
And just
that
a
you
little,
cannot,
a little
take
gesture.
for nothing,
a little gesture.
And matter of fact, where is it?
It's here. It's here, and we're going to show it in just a minute. We're going to get some of Pam's biscuits. Show it, not share it. That's right. We're going to get some of the jelly and some of your biscuits, and we're going to talk about if you do nothing but bake a little basket of bread and take to your neighbor. Take to somebody who possibly, one of the things when I was a caregiver, being there 24/7 got very, very hard. If somebody would relieve me for an hour, just 1 hour, it made such a difference.
But then you have to live with the guilt of leaving for an hour.
Exactly.
Because you want to stay positive that the person's going to make it and live, but then in the back of your mind when you leave, you're thinking, well, I'm leaving and they could pass on. So you've got constant turmoil inside of you, taking care of the person, then the guilt of, do I leave? You need time for yourself.
But they need to take that break to get refreshed, to bring back positive energy.
That's
right. If you just keep going, you're getting
Yay. We're back. That was Angela at her happiest, at her healthiest, and then spiraled down. Every one of us remember those sad days. I remember the day that your mom lost her sister, and then 3 months later, her son got a diagnosis.
Yep.
And your mother lived through that. She has, do you think it's made her stronger?
I think it has, absolutely. And you know, having Heidi, my youngest, in that equation has also been a great thing for her, too, because going back to what we talked earlier about having something to care for, and we live on adjacent properties.
She lost her daughter, almost her son, and her husband.
Yeah.
And then she was blessed with your beautiful daughter.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, it's funny because when there's an 11-year gap between our middle child, Ella, and Heidi, and so many people thought, oh, you had an accident. I did not accidentally have Heidi, for the record.
Yeah.
But it, obviously we didn't want to have it in the midst of my health traumas, you know. So when life became somewhat stable, we decided to move forward with the plans for child 3, and even my mom was like, are you sure you want to do this? And now it was the best decision ever.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, there are mornings where she drives me crazy, and I'm like, well, what was I thinking? But any 6-year-old does that in any given day. So.
And, you know, in honor of your father, her middle name is Berlin.
Yeah, we know it's funny. We just got her, so I'm a dual citizen, my kids are dual citizens, and we just went to the German consulate to get Heidi her German passport. And we almost couldn't get it because they said, you can't name a person Berlin. And I said, well, why not? And the only way that it happened is somebody at the office there, their name was Georgia. And they said, well, her name's Georgia. And they said, well, we'll put it through, but we don't think it's legal in Germany, but it was fine.
Oh,
but
wow.
The name Berlin, totally, they'd never heard of anybody. You know.
Yeah. Well, we just told the Facebook audience this, and we want to share with our ETC audience. Danny is getting great care.
Yeah.
And MD Anderson is very pleased with the care he's getting here.
Yeah,
So
and
he's going to come back to Georgia.
Yeah, he's on his way home, and he has his marching orders. And similar thing happened with me. You know, I had my surgery at MD Anderson, but so I didn't have to spend so much time in Texas. They gave marching orders to Piedmont here, and that's who took care of my chemo and radiation and follow-up testing and whatnot. Because it is a burden to have to travel out there, and you know the expense that goes with that is pretty steep. So he got I think as positive as news as you can get in this situation, and they are stamp of approval on what the protocol is moving forward, and so they're on their way home with some good plans to go forward.
And so we ask each and every one of you this week, as you salute your fathers on Father's Day, salute all those fathers who aren't here to celebrate with their children for whatever reason. And please remember the young man in Holly Springs who lost his life last night. You know, he was doing his job. We see that every single day, and we know that there are moments that we can't change, but we deal with it and you go on. And 15 years ago, was it 15 years ago we were sitting at your kitchen table?
So I was diagnosed on July the 12th, 2005. So this is coming up on the 16th anniversary. Yeah.
We never dreamed today that you would be sitting here at ETC. Now we're going to dream and we're going to pray, Danny, to be sitting here 16 years from today.
I think in life in general, you set small, achievable goals. And, you know, it's the same way you'd eat a whale, one bite at a time. And so he's got a tough road ahead of him with chemo and radiation and, you know, potential surgeries. But all of that doesn't happen at once. It happens incrementally, and it's one step at a time. And as long as you stay positive and you stay focused, I think that is your best chance to overcome that kind of a mountain.
Right. And the fact that and please, y'all, if you get an opportunity to donate for cancer research, Hans, where are you going to be next besides Laura Mays, and how can people get involved in that?
So Laura Mays is on Monday, but I honestly don't know. It might already be full. I think we're limiting it to 24 people because they're not quite open yet, right? So this is kind of us playing in that space and getting it going. It's a little market/shop. And one of my students from years ago named Chris Dowling is the chef there, and he was one of my favorite, prodigies.
That's so exciting for the connection to happen.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just perfect.
Well, you introduced me to Nancy, who's the shop owner, who asked me, do you know of anybody? And I said,
immediately.
I knew the perfect guy, but I didn't know if he was available to do it. But he was so excited that he basically put in his notice at his current place. And I think it's going to be a great spot, and if you don't know where it is, I mean, it's right, I don't know what the name of the street is.
Across the library. It's at the corner of Groover Street and Old Canton Road,
Okay.
just across from the library in Ball Ground.
Yeah, it's kind of near where the elementary school was as well, right there.
Yes.
But I'm excited about that. And again, I don't work there or anything. I'm just there to help them with their grand opening. We're going to do a little bit of a demo.
And your spices are going to be available there?
They're selling the spices there, and we've got them at the old Mule House, and of course we always have them at Out of the Blue up in Blue Ridge. We need to get Sarah back on here.
Yes,
She's
we
always,
do.
She's always a
Yes,
lot of
we
fun.
do. We
But
love her.
to that end, though, you know, when you mentioned the Blackberry Ridge, was that the name of it? You know, that's a mom and pop, and it didn't get the support that it needed to stay afloat.
Right.
And so, you know, it's so easy these days to on your phone go onto Amazon and just click, you know, buy it now.
Yeah.
Gravity's strong today.
Yeah, it is.
So just remember those mom and pop, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a retailer, whether it's a hairstyle place,
Right.
whatever it is, there are people that wake up every day with this dream and this passion to pursue this thing, and it only works if we meet them halfway. You
That's
know,
right.
that we give them support, and not only are we patrons there, but we also kind of spread the word about, hey, there's this awesome place in Blue Ridge or in Jasper or in Ball Ground.
And do like me, take your phone in and take a picture of your food before you eat it. Yesterday, Mike's L.J. restaurant, I'm so ashamed of myself, the best food, and I forgot to take a picture because we scarfed it down. It was yummy. So
I liked it before and
it's time
afters.
for us to get out of here.
It happened so fast.
I know. We should do 2 hours on Hans's own.
I'll come back.
Y'all enjoy Father's Day. If you have your dad here with you, certainly enjoy those moments, those times. We'll see you again soon, only on ETC, where rivers, mountains, and good friends meet. Bye,
care.
y'all.